Thank you so much for having us here today. I am Miss Small. I work as a college advisor at Hillside High School. And joining me today is the lovely.
I am Miss R, and I'm the college advisor at CMA, also known as City of Medicine. So we're really glad to have everyone today. And for those of you who can't make it, I hope you're watching us on the YouTube.
Excellent. So we are going to be talking to you today about college essays, just what is in an essay, essentially, and just a couple of writing tips. And then if we have time at the end, I do have like a brief values activity that we can do just to kind of get your brain thinking and brainstorming about different topics you could write about. So what's in an essay? So first, some steps to start writing an excellent essay. Number one, you're going to want to start by brainstorming. So if there's multiple prompts to choose from, start by maybe just taking a couple notes for each topic and just seeing, which one you might have some more to write about. Maybe, even if you don't think that you have a lot to write about for one topic, you might start writing down and start brainstorming and be like, oh, wait, I actually do have a lot I could write for this. So even if what you're brainstorming maybe doesn't meet the requirements they're asking for, that's going to move on into that second point. Just let your first draft flow. So don't worry about perfect writing. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about, how many words you're using. I might, maybe try and stick as close to the word count if they give you one as possible. But for the most part, just don't worry about it. There will be lots of time for editing, especially if you're starting now, starting early. You'll have lots of time to go back and work on those ideas. And then so just kind of lastly, like structuring your ideas and supporting them with details and examples. So the more specific that you can get, the better. But these details are more so going to be painting a picture of what you're writing about to the reader. So one of the things that I like to tell my students when we're working on their essays and reviewing their essays is that if you were to write something and you maybe didn't put your name on it and you were walking around outside and it just maybe slipped out of your backpack and someone randomly picks it up on the street, and let's say that maybe that person does know you, then if you don't have your name on the paper, there should be as much detail, as much example, as much picture painting as possible so that if they read it, they know exactly who to return that paper to. And so that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit more as we keep going. So then we also have these next couple of tips that I will let Miss R kind of take over.
Yeah, so kind of starting out, I don't want you guys to be afraid of being your authentic self on the piece of paper. This is the chance for you to make a connection with the admissions counselor who's reading the essay. Everyone is going to be submitting scores, their GPA, and some aspects of your activities list may even look similar to someone else. Your essay is the chance for you to show who you are, whether that be your hobbies, whether that be your peek at what your family and your relationships might look like. And yeah, so that can all come across here. It's important to get feedback from people, whether that be the advisor at your school, an English teacher, a friend, a parent. And it's nice because all these different relationships have people, these are people who know you to different degrees, right? So your parents, who knows you better than them? They might be able to give you some insight about an aspect of yourself, a good quality about yourself that you don't even see. So they might say, this is something you can really highlight. Whereas a teacher who may not know some aspects about your personal life might say, well, as I'm reading this for the first time, this is what I'm learning about you. That way you can say, this is what an admissions counselor might be learning about me as they're reading this. And proofreading is really important. You are going to put so much work into formulating good ideas and good details and drawing on your personal experiences to put together the essay. So you don't want a mistaken typo, or by no means do you want the wrong school name in a school specific essay. So just be really sure that someone's looking over it and you're looking over it multiple times.
All right, so now kind of looking at different types of essays that you might be asked to do. So these can include an essay with a prompt. So for example, the Common App asks you a couple of different questions that you can choose from, but one of the topics might be recount an incident or a time when you experienced failure. How did it affect you and what lessons did you learn? So for this one, they are definitely wanting you to just kind of think back about a time that, maybe something didn't go exactly the way that you wanted it to, and talk about that. So, and it's asking, how did it affect you and what lessons did you learn? So those are gonna be definitely key to remember when you're writing. They're asking about you and yourself. So like we were kind of saying, this is about you, so talk about you. It's great if you can mention, maybe if someone maybe helped you get where you are, like if your mom did something for you, that's great. But what we don't want is your whole essay talking about somebody else, because then when an admissions counselor is reading it, they're learning so much about your mom or your community leader, but they might not know anything about you. So just remembering to look at, if you have an essay with a prompt, what it is that they are kind of asking for. And so then it could even go down to UNC Chapel Hill being like, you were just invited to speak at the White House, write your speech. And that's all you get. So for this one, you can write it literally about anything you want. You just need to make sure that it's a speech. And so maybe with this one, if you're practicing or writing this one, I might maybe suggest to practice it as if it were a speech. So maybe get like your parents or somebody, your college advisor even, to just kind of hop on Zoom with you or be on the phone and let you read your speech to them. And that way you can kind of get an idea, okay, does this sound how I want it to sound? Does this sentence or word structure make sense? Is it coming across the way I want it to come across? And then last but not least, essays with a prompt could be as short as someone just saying, like the University of Richmond, tell us about spiders. And that's all you get. So for me, I might maybe take this in a different direction and talk about how much I don't like spiders, and maybe talk a little bit about my fear of spiders for this one. I might not give like information just personally in my essay. So that would maybe give you a little insight about who I am, that, maybe I'm a little afraid of spiders, and that's okay. But as you can see, essays with a prompt can be as specific as recounting an incident or a time when you experienced a failure. It could be as non-specific as just tell us about spiders. They definitely range.
There's actually one more thing I wanted to mention about the
Yeah.
Common App prompt specifically. It's interesting that I think there are 7 total, and one of the 7 is actually write on a prompt if you're choosing. So let's say you're thinking about all different prompts and you're writing down your ideas for each one, but you have an experience or an aspect of yourself that you really are set on capturing, and you think that maybe taking the story in a different direction, still an organized direction and still getting across a specific point, but it doesn't necessarily fit one of those prompts, do keep in mind that there is a option there to answer your own question.
And then even so, just going along with that as well, if you've been writing a whole bunch of different essays for different schools, and you get to the Common App and one of them is just like, choose your own prompt to write about, maybe you were also applying to University of Richmond and you already have the tell us about spiders written. If it meets that same criteria and you feel like it just speaks to who you are as a person and gives an idea as to who you are, then copy and paste and write that for your Common App essay. Definitely reduce, reuse, and recycle your essays as much as possible, just to make it a little easier on yourself.
And you might ask yourself with the spiders one, how might the spiders question tell a story about myself? Like, just keep in mind the spiders is just the root of the story. So maybe you had an experience where you were camping in your backyard and you saw a spider. The spider is a small root that allows you to now tell a story about maybe bonding with your cousins in your backyard. Like that. But yeah, continue.
And so then moving a little bit more, you do have some short answer questions for some schools. And so you will probably more than likely see short answer questions if you are applying on Common App. So for example, one might just say, you know, briefly elaborate on one of your extracurricular activities or work experiences. So if you have an essay or short answer question that asks you to just kind of elaborate, this is definitely not asking you to just list your resume. So this question is definitely asking for you to maybe refer back to your resume or just like think back on a time when you had like a work experience or extracurricular activity that maybe means a lot to you or just is just really important to you. And so that would be a good one to kind of write about. And you could just maybe choose one particular experience that you had, maybe like one game that was really, really big for you, or like if you are in a community service organization using that as an example. Any of those are going to be great, but as long as you're writing about something that you're passionate about, that's what I would choose if it asks you to elaborate on a extracurricular or work experience. And so then Wake Forest has a question of what enrages you, or University of Virginia, to tweet or not to tweet. So these are all going to be asking you very concisely to talk about the questions that they're asking. So what enrages you? So in 250 words, just talking about, you know, maybe things that might make you angry, or even if it's just like, oh, I saw like this poster outside and one day it just really got me angry. And if you can make that into a 250 word essay, write about it. University of Virginia, giving you a lot of room with the to tweet or not to tweet. So maybe, you know, you go look up an example on Twitter of somebody's tweet that, you know, maybe you don't agree with, and maybe you talk about that. Or maybe you just talk about your experience with Twitter in general. If you don't use social media, maybe talk about that. Maybe you're a not to tweet type of person. They could go in a whole bunch of different directions, but just remembering that at the end of this, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you are at that 250 word mark. So if we are just kind of brainstorming and letting our draft flow, maybe making sure that with our short answer questions, we're maybe not going more than 300 to 350 words, just so then that way when we go back to edit, we have room to reduce it down, and it's not like going from 600 words to 250 words, because that might change the story up a little bit. Cool. And yeah, so I will let Ms. R kind of talk about personal statements now.
Oh no, I was muted. Okay. So personal statement is a general statement about you, your educational and career goals, and what you have to offer to the school. So when, for example, for App State, what are your educational or your career goals? This is a good opportunity to make some connections between different things you want to get across. So for example, let's say you really love your biology coursework in high school, and through that coursework you decided, oh, you might be interested in nursing. So those are two things you can talk about. There is the level of classes, what you have already gained exposure to, and there's the level of what you want to learn more about. So what you want to start pursuing, perhaps in college. Then it's very important to take it the next step further, get on the school's website, do some reading, and say, what does this specific school have to offer that meets my interests and my goals? And I'm not just saying, oh, UNC Chapel Hill has robust science programs or robust student groups, right? That's not specific enough. We want you to go in there and find 2 or 3 specific student groups that have been established that you can see yourself being a part of. Or maybe you might even see a professor doing some interesting, having an interesting class, or maybe you might see some research opportunities just from Googling around. You can actually reference a person by name or a program by name to show just how interested you are in that school. So it's important to always connect your personal interest with the interest at that school. The idea is you want that admissions counselor to be able to imagine, hey, what might this student look like when they arrive on campus? What might their involvements look like? How are they contributing to us? Because they know they're great. They just want to know, what are you going to do when you arrive? Did you want to add anything to that, Ms. Small?
That was perfect. That was great. And I guess I would just say, lastly, just making sure that this is a personal statement. So I just honestly cannot stress enough how personal this needs to be for you. So like I kind of said in the beginning, if you are giving this to an admissions counselor, maybe if you don't know where to start with a personal statement, maybe just thinking of, what do I want them at the end of the day, in one sentence, what do I want them to know about me when they finish reading this paper? And then maybe also working from that point as well. And then, you know, if maybe something you want them to know is that you are, you know, super interested in some sort of subject, then I think that's definitely a great idea Ms. R gave you. Go to their website, look, do some research before you actually start writing. Maybe make that a part of your brainstorming process. So I appreciated that. That was a good one. Okay, cool. So I think we are now at the end of the presentation part of it. So since we do have time, I did just want to do a quick activity to just kind of get people brainstorming. And maybe while I am bringing up the activity for us to see on the screen, if maybe people could drop in the chat where they are with their personal statements or just like their essays in general. If you're using Common App, you know, have you seen any of these essay types at all? And yeah, just kind of talk to us a little bit about that. I just want to see where people are and maybe where we need to go. And for people at home watching this later on, I'll read out some of the answers from the chat as soon as we get some popped up.
And then kind of while you guys are putting in your stuff here, I wanted to say, as you are thinking about bringing other people into your story, we talked a little bit about earlier, you want to make sure your personal statements and your essays are always centered on yourself. It is kind of a narcissistic process, the college essay, but you know, try to have fun with it. And if you are going to bring in another character, not a character, but maybe a family member and stuff, always try to tie that person back to yourself. So if you're going to bring up maybe your grandpa, don't let the essay veer and become why my grandpa's the best and why my grandpa should be admitted to App State. Make sure you're saying, my grandpa influenced me in this way. So if your grandpa loves music and you talk about that, that should be connected to then your love of music. Or if he's a great cook, you know, your ability to, you know, enjoy cooking and be a baker or something like that. You know, like always connect it back to yourself. We have some comments here. So we have one person who has been using the Common App and finished on your Common App essay so far. We've got a junior thinking ahead. We love to see that. That's very impressive. I'm impressed. Common App drafts written, may do a little rewrite, but moving on and refining. That's great. So you're in the process of maybe getting one or two opinions from trusted people in your life and getting those edits in. Common App is basically a third-party portal where you will complete your college applications and you can send them to your school, all the various schools through this portal. The idea is it creates less work for you. Why it's called a Common App is there's a common element of the application that is the same for every school. And then there are these supplemental parts that are unique to each school. So what the Common App does is you only have to complete that common part once, and then you complete the supplemental parts for every school. I know that may have sounded a little confusing, but I do promise the website is very user-friendly and comprehensive. It's a pretty nice website. Some people haven't started their essays yet, but they're still, you know, you got on here, started checking this out early, but you've completed other parts of your Common App, which is great. What's nice is you still have lots of time for the Common App essay. So if you get started now, you will have enough time to brainstorm for a few days, get your ideas down, get second opinions all before November early action deadlines if you put your mind to it. And okay, mostly finished on my short answers on Common App, but still working on my essay. I've chosen the prompt and brainstormed. Wonderful. Yeah, sometimes it might be nice to get your mind going with some of the shorter essays before moving on to the longer one. Good job, everyone. Sounds good.
Also, so sorry. Did not realize that I couldn't drop files into the chat right now. So what I'm going to do actually is send the activity to our lovely hosts at Game Plan College at the Emily K Center and have them kind of send it out to everybody. But I will just kind of share my screen and show you what the activity looks like and just kind of talk through it a little bit just for the people at home so that you can see it as well. So one of the things that I like to work on with my students is maybe if you, unlike our students here in the chat today who have already started working on essays, already started writing, already brainstormed, y'all are on the ball, keep going. But maybe you're at a place where you don't know where to start. This might be a good option for you is to kind of think about your core values. And core values are basically, what do you care about? If you didn't necessarily keep these ideas or opinions at the center of who you are, then maybe you wouldn't be who you are today. So one of the things that I like to do is I give students this list of over 120 words. So it's a pretty long list, so not exhaustive, but definitely extensive. And basically what I have you do is you set a timer for 5 minutes. And within those 5 minutes, you're gonna look over all 120 words and choose 10 of them from that list that you feel like speak to who you are. Okay, and so then after you get that list of 10, after that timer has hit 5 minutes, then you're gonna set yourself another timer, but you're gonna bring it down from 5 to 3 minutes. And so that way, you're gonna look back over that list of 10 words that you identified, and you're gonna choose 5 of them. So you're taking them from 120 down to 10, down to 5. And then the last step is to set a timer for 1 minute. And out of those 5 words that you've chosen, you're only gonna choose 3 of them that you feel like without these core values that you just would not be you. Like you feel like these things are essential to who you are. So for instance, when I did this activity with some students previously, one of them had family, somebody else had religion, somebody else had, hardworking. Or just, quality time, things like that. And then from there, once you get those 3 words, you can start thinking of examples of maybe times when you either showed those core values, maybe when you first recognized it as a core value, or, maybe if you were in a space that you were really challenged or somebody really challenged that core value, maybe talk about how you overcame that person and the challenge that they were giving you. So this is just an activity that will be shared with you all. Just so that maybe you can get just an idea of maybe where to start if you don't necessarily have one. Or it's just also good to kind of look at and do to maybe go back and make sure that the essays that you've already written kind of align with your core values. So you could use it going backwards as well. It's just kind of a good place. And then especially with that last one, once you get down to those 3 words, maybe if you did talk about a challenge and how you overcame it, that was one of the essay prompts that we showed you going through the presentation. So you kind of already have a good starting point for that, that question asking about, what's a failure that you had and how did you overcome it? Or like, what's an incident you had and how did you overcome it? So yes, this will be shared with you all. I just wanted to show it.
What's really something I like to do personally is when I'm brainstorming, use one of those classic, I'm just going to draw it for you, like one of those classic little bubbles with the little thing sticking out as an idea, the little idea bubbles, like one of these guys with one of these. So maybe you might put your core value in the middle, and then you might put experiences that relate to that value around it as you're just jotting things down. And then later when you're looking to flesh out the details, you just have it actually written down, in front of you, which can be really nice. But I think that that activity will be really helpful. There's one question here. I saw someone asked, what do you guys mean by reusing essays? Can you literally reuse the same essay with different schools? Yes, you can. Well, one thing to note is that one school will not see what you submit to another school under any circumstances. Just make sure if you are reusing an essay, just make sure it's still answering that school's question. So you might be in a situation where both schools have the exact same question. So a common question that's asked, like Ms. Small was talking about earlier, is briefly elaborate on one of your extracurricular activities or work experiences. That's one that I know for sure appears more than once, even just within North Carolina public schools. That one verbatim can be copied. Others might be similar, and you might make some small adjustments to an essay you've made to make it suit another school.
And I definitely say that if you can, one of the things that I love to do is technology. It's fun, it's great. And there is a Google Doc app. So if you don't have that downloaded already on your phone, I would download that. And anytime that you're writing an essay, go ahead and just copy and paste the prompt and write it in that Google Doc. And then that way you can always just go back to that one document that you have your essays written on, and you can know, okay, I know this is the question that was asked. This is the essay that I wrote. Can I use that same essay in another application? Or can I use that essay on a scholarship application? Yeah. Yes. Okay, cool. Copy, paste it on the application, turn the application in. So that is literally when I say copy and paste, I do literally mean you can reuse the same essay, but definitely like Ms. R was saying, if you have written an essay that maybe mentions like, oh, I really want to go to Duke University because I want to go to divinity school later on in life. That's cool. Definitely can write about it. However, please do not use that same essay to also apply to UNC Chapel Hill, because the people in the admissions office are going to go, wait a second, we don't have a divinity school. Also, we are not Duke University. So just making sure that if you have written anything like super specific, like mentioned a school name, mentioned a program, mentioned a person, mentioned a class, anything like that, that is specific to a particular school, that's maybe when you might not want to reuse that same essay. But just generally, if they are asking the same questions, you can for sure use the same essay. I think it's a great idea, super, super easy for you, because this time can already be stressful enough. Trying to do applications, trying to do FAFSA, all that kind of good stuff. So make the essay writing process easier on yourself by definitely putting your essays in a Google Doc and keeping track of them that way. Yeah, so I think that is all that we have for you today. So thank you so much for joining us. I did just want to quickly mention that College Application Week, with an S in the parentheses, is coming up very, very shortly. So we are now at the, I want to say, 5-day mark from it starting. So College Application Week is a time from this year, October 19th through the 30th, where if you apply to schools on College Foundation of North Carolina, also known as cfnc.org, that would allow you to apply to schools here in North Carolina for free. There is a list of schools if you go onto cfnc.org's website. They have a whole countdown to college activities and just like letting you know who's participating and who's actually going to be waiving their application fees. But this is a great time if you're wanting to maybe save some money, if you're wanting to do some applications and get those out of the way now. That would be a great time for you because they are going to be free. Now, not all of them are free. There are certain schools that are participating, but like I said, you'd be able to find that information on cfnc.org. And so we did have a question that, is it also through Common App? So no, because Common App is basically a national / like international platform that students can use to apply to schools, it's not going to be on Common App. It is, oh, thank you, Mrs. R. She dropped the list of schools that are waiving their fees in the chat. So this is just a time where you can apply to schools through CFNC. If you don't apply through that platform, then you're going to need to talk with your counselor, talk with your college advisor, and figure out a way to get a fee waiver to the school. But save yourself some time. Make yourself a CFNC account and apply through CFNC to make it easier on everyone.
And with the Common App fee waivers, just keep in mind if you've received a SAT waiver in the past, and you already know you're eligible, please don't hesitate to reach out your advisor. They can get you a waiver the very same way. Well, all right. Do we have any final questions, everyone? I think no.
So weird.
If I have already started on Common App for all of my applications, do I have to redo them on CFNC? A small yes.
So I would say to double check the list of schools that are waiving their application fees, because like I said, not all of them are doing it. And also not all schools in North Carolina are on Common App. There's only a couple. So if you're doing like NC State, UNC Chapel Hill, NC A&T, schools like that, Duke University, all those kinds of places, I would say to just leave them on your Common App if you've already started, because UNC Chapel Hill does ask for some additional questions, and I believe some of the other schools do as well. So those you could only find on Common App. So I'd say leave those on there, but maybe just look back over the list of schools that are waiving their fees during college application week, and then maybe just apply to some of those schools through CFNC. So I would, just as a recap, look back at your Common App schools, see who's on there, look back at the list of schools that are waiving their application fees to compare them together. And then whoever is not on your Common App, but they are waiving their fees for college application week, then use CFNC for those schools. And then like Ms. R was saying, there is a way for you to get a Common App fee waiver like through Common App. So if you go to your profile section, at the very bottom, it should say like Common App fee waiver, like college application fee waiver request. Click yes to that, and then from the list of options, you'll just have to choose one that works for you, and then your counselor will be able to verify that, and that fee waiver will go for all the schools on your Common App that you have listed. Now, I will say there are certain schools who request a physical fee waiver to be sent into them, like UNC Chapel Hill, NC A&T State University. They will need physical waivers, so you'd probably have to connect with your counselor anyway for those schools, but that's kind of my spiel with CFNC and Common App. And then we did have another question saying, I'm retaking the ACT on the 25th. Am I able to apply to colleges in the meantime, or is it good to still write essays before then? So it's definitely good to like work on your essays before then. I will say that for North Carolina public institutions, or like the UNC system, they are test optional this year. So if you are applying to schools now and like writing your essays now, but you're retaking the ACT later, that's totally fine. Like you could submit your application with your essays and all that kind of good stuff before you take that test, because that's a supplemental material that you can send in when it's ready.
And if you have any more questions about test optional and what that might mean for you specifically, I really recommend that you reach out to your college advisor or one of us, and would be happy to have like a more individualized to you conversation about that. All right.
Well, thank you so much to our friends at Emily K with Game Plan College for having us here today. Yeah, I guess I'll let y'all close out for us.
No, that was all. Thank you both so much for, putting this workshop together. And students, reach out to your college advisor, reach out to us for any questions as you continue to navigate this process. We're doing this college workshops every Wednesday at 2:30. And in addition, there are college visits hosted by us, hosted by your DPS advisors. So go to our Instagram. That's the best way to stay up to date with what's going on. So we look forward to seeing you again next week.